Hi guys, Sean here, and in this video I wanted to talk about something quite important, something that I struggled with for a long time. And I know that other people struggle with this as well, because I talk to them all the time and they basically have this exact same problem. And it's really holding them back. It's stopping them from finding their strengths and from performing at their highest level and being successful and being happy in their life and in their career. And that is basically the idea of self-awareness, because there are basically a bunch of different types of people in this world. Like, you are born with a certain personality and a certain way of thinking and a certain way of seeing the world. And what's happened in this kind of online information ecosystem is that there are a few people at the top who are successful, and they're being completely just poured into our consciousness through content feeds, algorithms, all of these things. And so you're seeing these certain types of people who are being successful, and you think that, and this is what I thought too, that that's the only way to make things work. I need to be like that person. But the reality is like the opposite. So the reality is that there are all these different kinds of people, and that it's the fact that you are different is what gives you your strengths and your weaknesses, and that different peoples are actually complementary to each other. And if everyone was like Alex Hormozi, then the world wouldn't work. It would actually be a complete mess. And I think he would probably admit that himself. So I just want to talk a little bit about what those different types of personalities are, how you can figure out what type of personality you are, and then how you can basically start implementing that in your life to not only get better results, but just enjoy your time more, enjoy your life more, and not be kind of forcing yourself to be someone you're not. So I'm just going to take a seat and we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm on holiday at the moment, so apologies for the poor lighting. So the main things to understand is that personality is a combination of how you're born and your nurture, and like how you were raised as well. So, it's not completely settled in the science, but it seems that how you are right now, like in terms of how you talk, your body language, how you present yourself to other people, it's a combination of how you're born and how you're raised. And you're born with a certain kind of set of temperaments, and then you try to complement those who are around you. So if your parents or your siblings are a certain way, you will actually be raised to kind of try and complement those people around you. So for example, my mother is very extroverted, and so to complement that, I'm more of an introvert. And so the reason for that is because I had so much energy in the household. I didn't need to provide the energy myself. I was always receiving the energy. And so I could afford to be more introverted, more analytical. And so that's kind of how that turned out. I was basically in a house full of extroverts. And so, yeah, as you look at your temperaments and your personality, and I'll go through some kind of frameworks that you can use in a second, you can start to understand how like you are a certain way, maybe your brothers or your sisters are a certain way, and your parents are a certain way. And it starts to kind of make a lot of sense, like why you are the way you are. Like, why am I an extrovert? Why am I an introvert? Why am I more of a logical type? Why am I more of an emotional, kind of value-based type? And then once you know that, you can then use that to your advantage, and you can use that in your career or in your business or in your relationships to put yourself around the right people and make sure you're solving the right problems. And that's basically what I did. So to go over some of those frameworks, I think the best one and easiest one to get into is called MBTI. It's called Myers-Briggs. So to do that, I'll put a link kind of in the comment section, but if you just Google Myers-Briggs test, or you go to 16 personalities, just type that into Google, you should be able to find a test. It takes like 15 minutes to fill out. Just answer honestly, like answer the questions honestly. Don't try to be a certain way. Try to answer as you are. And if you do that, you should get a pretty accurate assessment. of, where your temperaments lie. So in my case, I am what's called an ISTP. And an ISTP is introverted, sensory, thinking, and perceptive. So basically all that together means I'm someone who likes to improvise, more introverted, more introspective. I'm very logical. I love solving problems, more so than talking about, relationships and people. And so, you basically combine all the letters together and you get a kind of sense of a person. And so if you can figure out what kind of person you are, that will really help you in figuring out what you should be doing in life, right? Because, you look at these online business gurus and they're like very different types of people. So you have people like Alex Hormozi, for example, who's like, I think is some kind of variant of like an ENTJ or something like that. And so that's someone who's like very creative, very intuitive, very extroverted. And so they're going to fit really well, like going out and doing webinars and doing talks and talking on stage and, doing all these like marketing, creative ideas. I'm very much not that kind of person, right? I'm introverted, I'm logical, I'm sensory, not intuitive, meaning I like data and facts and things like that. So if I were to try and copy Alex Hormozi's business model or his strategy, or just like try and live a day in the life of Alex Hormozi, I would fail. And even if I didn't fail, even if I, managed to make it work, which I'm sure like I could learn, I would hate it. It would be miserable. Whereas I look at someone more like Sam Ovens, for example, who's kind of like Alex Hormozi's doppelganger. He is an INTJ. And so an INTJ is someone who's introverted, I, is intuitive, N, is thinking, like logical, and then they're a judgmental or judgment type, which is like ordered and structured and organized. And so that's someone who is like a systems designer or an architect, someone like that. And, you can see how you look at the businesses, and they're actually like business partners, and they're working on like a software company together. And you can see how Sam is the one who's doing the design behind the scenes and actually like building the software and the product design. And he like stopped making content and all that kind of stuff, just doing like what he's good at. And then you saw Alex, who's like doing all of the marketing and being loud and like being the promoter. And that actually becomes a really solid duo. And, if Sam, as he like used to do, tried to force himself to do the things that he didn't want to do, and if he would, basically like force himself to be someone who he's not, he could do it, but it would be incredibly taxing on him. He wouldn't have fun, right? Which means he wouldn't be as creative. He wouldn't perform as well. And actually, it's like a massive loss on the world if you think about it, because here's someone who is like incredibly good at just tinkering and like building things behind the scenes, and they're not using their God-given talents, and instead they're like trying to shoehorn a different type of person into their own psyche because that's what works, right? It would be a real shame if we never saw Sam doing what he's doing. Imagine if like he was forced to just like record YouTube videos all day. I'm sure he would hate that. And, I'm sure some people would like that, but it sure wouldn't be like getting the most of him. And so, once you identify what type of personality you are, you can then start to think about, well, what should I be doing? Not what can I do, what should I be doing? And what will be fun for me? And so, I'm more of a Sam Ovens type than an Alex Hormozi type, but I'm not a Sam Ovens either, right? I'm not this like super organized person, right? I'm not a J type, I'm a P type. And I'm not an intuitive, I'm a sensory, right? So whereas he's an INTJ, I'm an ISTP. So where I would really prosper is in taking high risks, in just improvising and just going things off the cuff. Like right now, I don't have a script for this video, I'm just kind of talking. And it kind of comes quite naturally. And I'm someone who focuses on like learning skills and like an agent and like an actor, someone who's actually like doing the doing and like very grounded and working on things with people, rather than someone who's just stuck behind a desk and like planning things and messing around with spreadsheets and things. And that's not to say that I can't do those things, right? I can do those things and I do those things when they're needed. But like the more you can lean into what you're naturally gifted at and what your temperament prefers, the more you can live a life of, well, first being happy with what you do and being energized with what you do, but also having fun with it and therefore being good at it and like spending a lot of time on it in the long term and not getting burnt out. So that's how you can basically discover what it is that you should be doing. Like if you're not sure like what type of business you should be running or who you should be working with or those kind of questions, it starts by being self-aware and understanding firstly, what type of person are you? So if you're wondering what to do, I would go and take the Myers-Briggs test. Again, I'll put a link to it in the description. Answer the questions honestly, try and understand what type of person you are. And I think it'll actually give you an understanding of what types of careers and things you'd be good at. So hope that's insightful. If you want to join my free community of business owners, you can click the first link in the description. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.